Welcome to Uncoached, a podcast for volunteer coaches and parents figuring out youth sports as we go. Each episode, we keep things simple. 5 questions to talk about practical insights you can actually use with your youth athletes. My guest today is Mandy Holmes. She's a fantastic sports mom who has dedicated time to helping parents, coaches, players, and teams find sponsorships. With the cost of sports, this is really something we should all be paying attention to. Mandy, if you do me the honor of giving me a little bit about your background so the audience understands who you are.
Sure, it's great to be here. And I always tell people I'm just a sports mom that figured it out. So I have an 11-year-old son. He plays multiple sports. Right now it's flag football, basketball, and pickleball. And I was always in the business of magazine ownership and advertising. So my whole background was conversations with business owners all day long. And when he started this whole journey on sports, it just naturally translated to talking to businesses, but positioning him as a marketing asset for them. So my whole background in marketing, PR, storytelling really helped when I developed what I do now. And we are just a sports family. We are all in, and it is all about sports and storytelling in our house.
No, that's great. Sometime I'm gonna have to pick your brain about pickleball. I've got a son close to your son's age, and he's expressed interest, and I just don't know how to get started in pickleball. So we'll save that one. But I want to read. I've got 4 stats here that I thought would help set the tone. And I know we're talking about sponsorships and helping your child, find that opportunity or maybe represent a brand or some equipment types and things like that. But it's always mind-boggling to me, the industry that we're in youth sports. So the average family spends about $1,000 for each kid per year, and I that's all over the place, right? I have a feeling a lot are spending more than that, but that's just the average family spend. U.S. families in total are spending about $40 billion on youth sports in general. Club teams cost families anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 per year per kid. And then 60% of parents say that youth sports puts a financial strain on them. And so I know what we're going to talk about today here is more than just kind of, fundraising in general. It's about finding some sponsorships. But I think what you're doing is helping families find a little bit of levity when it comes to the amount of money that it's just costing families to be involved in youth sports today. So wanted to set the tone with some of that. Pretty impactful. Maybe give me some just gut feel on hearing those stats yourself.
Yeah, when I heard you say $1,000 a year, I think a lot of families are like, oh my gosh, we spend well over that every single month.
Right.
So, it's just wild, these costs. And when you figure in if people are traveling, if they're doing multiple sports, it just adds up like so crazy that people they're not able to sustain and give their kids the opportunities that they want to give them because of the financial pressure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so along that same line of thought, youth sports are expensive and they're going to continue to grow. So what are you seeing parents and teams struggle with the most right now when it comes to the cost of things?
Yeah, if you're on a club team and there's travel involved, oftentimes that gets crazy expensive because there's flights, there's hotels, there's meals, there's gear. All of that stuff adds up. So I see those parents reach out to me often asking how they can cover the travel expenses. But then I see it even the kids on the neighborhood little league team that are just looking to have a sponsored meal at the end of the season to celebrate their season, but that's a financial burden for the parents and the team. So it doesn't matter how much or how, extensive the ask is. It's always the same ask when you're looking for sponsorships. And I rarely use the word fundraising because what I teach people is so much different because it's really creating a brand for your athlete or your team as a marketing partnership. And I know we'll talk about that later, but I really stay away from the word fundraiser because we're not out there selling chocolate. We're not asking friends and family for $10 or $15 Venmo donations. It's very, very different when you present yourself as a partnership to a business.
Absolutely. And what you have me thinking about is it's different, right? It's different for families, I think, to think of their youth athlete as a vehicle for a company to use as a marketing spokesperson, let's say. As a coach, you've got me thinking about what could I be doing from a team perspective, right? There seems like there'd be a lot of opportunity there from a coach's perspective as well, because there's many things that pop up during the year for a team where I'm pulling out of pocket to help the team and do different things, right? So I love the thought process. I don't know, maybe, this isn't one of our official topics, but maybe you have some thoughts on how a team might do that too.
Yeah, everything that I teach people, you can apply either to an individual athlete or in a team setting. I know my guy, we've gotten his team meals comped all season long just with one simple email. And it's just the way you position it. And it's so fun because a team meal is so much more than just the food you're eating. It's team bonding, it's setting the tone for the season, it's getting the families involved. And they feel like it's an opportunity for the team really to come together as one. And that's so much better than just, getting Chick-fil-A on your way to the ballpark. It's like, no, we're going to sit down, we're going to bond with each other, we're going to learn about each other, and that's going to translate onto the field or onto the court because we're really building that chemistry off the court.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And I know, so we touched on just a second ago, this isn't necessarily fundraising because sponsorships are a little bit different. So, how should parents and coaches think about sponsorships in more of a practical way? Because I think when you hear this word sponsorship, you think, you know, LeBron James and a sponsored sneaker, and it's not that's not really what you're talking about here. So maybe you could put it into practical terms for the folks that are listening in.
Yeah, when we talk about sponsorships, it's unlikely that your kiddo's going to get a Gatorade or a Nike sponsorship right out the gates. Maybe, LeBron James was just a kid with a dream of becoming pro. So, you never know. But what I teach is very much a local partnership. So, positioning your kiddo as a good pillar of the community. They're not the kid out there that's cursing out the teammates or that's being a jerk to their parents after a loss. They're showing good sportsmanship. They're out in the community. Maybe they're doing community service. Maybe they're active within their school. It's all of these things outside of their actual sport that help kind of build their story. And that's what brands want to partner with. So a sponsorship is truly, you have to view it as a partnership and really let that business know, here's what we are providing for you. Maybe it's the logo on the jersey. Maybe it's an email blast to the team. Maybe it's posting on social media. There's a bunch of different ways you can bring value to local businesses. And I always tell people your first sponsorship is probably way closer than you think. Because if you just think about the people you're already doing business with, your kiddo's dentist, their doctor, their favorite pizza joint, the realtor that sold you your house, your insurance person, like all these people you are spending money with on a daily or annually basis. It's like, let's go to those people first because you're already supporting their business and they're really highly likely to support what you're asking for. A couple $100 here and there. It really adds up over a season.
Right. And then what I think the genius of this is we're all hungry, I think, in this social space to have content that's legitimate and genuine feeling. And so, I can see where your youth athlete is out there and maybe they're wearing the logo or they're eating at the local establishment or they're using some of the facilities that are locally available. I can see how that tie in is a very nice practical relationship where the youth athlete's getting something out of it, but that business is also getting some local advertising, some messaging out there as well, which I think is extremely valuable. And I think it's a really smart approach to sponsorships for youth athletes.
Yeah, and a lot of businesses don't even, they haven't even thought of this before that, oh my gosh, this is a really reasonable way to do marketing in a very organic way. And it's just positioning them as a supporter of youth in their community. And that speaks volumes when it's reflected on a business.
Yeah, that's a win-win. So I think it's, super smart. I love the thought process that you've put behind this, and I think it's really fantastic. I would say there's probably a lot of people that feel a bit awkward having this conversation with businesses for a sponsorship, for a product, for a free meal, right? For money. What are some of the guiding principles you're giving folks on the approach to that conversation without having them feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, and that was me. When I started, I didn't want to do it face to face. I didn't want to walk in and meet with somebody and ask for something. And so I started with email. And that is a great first step to just get on their radar. Sometimes you want to follow it up with a phone call or a walk in. But I am telling you, these emails, I have them down to a science now of exactly what you need to say, what you need to include in your ask to make the conversation happen. So your goal is not to send an email and ask for $10,000 right away. You're not even talking about a dollar amount in that first email. It's to get a conversation or a meeting going with the decision maker, with the right person. So if people are scared, email's easy because you're hiding behind a computer screen. What's the worst they're going to do? Not respond to your email
Sure.
or respond no. Okay, moving on to the next one, So it's not scary sending an email. If you are more of a person that likes to get out there, meet people, I teach folks how to go to networking events where there's lots of business owners in the same room and how to have those productive conversations with them to, again, get a meeting outside of that room and really nail down exactly what you're asking for and what they're getting in return and why this partnership makes sense for them. But if you're scared, always start with the email, follow up with a phone call. And if you still haven't heard from them, follow up with a walk-in. And then I give you the exact tools that you want to bring with you to that walk-in. It's a little media kit of your child. It's photos of your family. It's some highlight reels of your values and what you can offer that business. And when you walk in and hand that to someone, that is kind of your security blanket. You have something in your hand, you can drop it off, and you are really likely to get a phone call back and get that conversation going after a walk-in.
No, that's great. And maybe this is part of your secret sauce and you can't share it, but when I'm with you, like sending an email is what's the harm in that, right? There's no, you don't have to see the person's rejection. You don't have to feel that. What's your approach to finding the right email addresses? Are you going to websites and using the contact us? Are you going to LinkedIn? All of the above? Is there any other special tips and tricks that maybe you have as far as finding an email address to get a hold of somebody?
Yes, and this is where my background in advertising and magazine ownership kind of comes in because I always needed to reach that decision maker. There's a lot of gatekeepers out there of the
Yeah.
people that we want to talk to. So it's really important that you get past that gatekeeper. And I have some tricks on how to do this. And one of them is to Google the owner's name of the business and then call that business and say, "Hi, may I please have John's direct email? I have a great marketing opportunity I'd like to run by him." And oftentimes they'll just give you his direct email or direct phone number, whatever you're asking for, if you're already calling with their name. So figure out
Mm.
who the decision maker is first, then call, get their direct contact information and preferred method of contact, and then go to them. My other tip is to reach out on social media, and you can send them a direct message on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever you use and say who handles your marketing for your company. Sometimes it's the business owner. Sometimes they have an outside PR or marketing firm. Sometimes they have somebody dedicated just to their marketing campaigns. And oftentimes that person is kind of your gateway into the decision maker if that's not the decision maker. So kind of doing a little research before you just send out an
Right.
email to the contact us form definitely makes a huge difference because then they see you're invested in their business. You've done some legwork. You really want to work with them.
No, that's great. Thank you for a peek behind the curtain there. That's some good tips. S-
Yep.
So we touched on this really briefly, but what are some creative ways that teams or players are providing value back to those sponsors other than just the traditional, hey, let's slap a logo on the sleeve of our jersey, right? Or hand out something at a game. What are some creative ways that maybe you're investigating or that you've seen done to date?
Yeah, well, if you're doing a meal, that's one of the easiest asks. So that one, you can position your team as if you host the meal for our whole team, then the families, the parents and the siblings will come in and they will pay for their meal. So oftentimes I see, restaurants will give us the private room, they'll set it up, they'll make it so nice because we're saying, yeah, feed our athletes for free, but we're also bringing you a handful of paying customers also. So that's a super easy way to get marketing and provide some business, some financial, business back to them. But also, you can always do the logos. One tip I have for people is you can order a logo for anything in an iron-on form. I
Mhm.
use Etsy personally, but if it's just the local, Subway well, Subway would have a logo, but if it's a local mom and pop owned business that they're like, we don't have iron-on logos, you just have them send you a picture of their logo. You turn it black on Canva. It takes 2 seconds, and then you can order iron-on logos to put on anything, bags, uniforms, warm ups, equipment, anything like that. And then, of course, there's social media. Social media is so valuable now, and brands don't need athletes that have thousands of followers. My little guy has about 800 followers, but because of the content we post, he gets over 500,000 views a month. And people share it, businesses share it, all his sponsors share it. So they're not necessarily looking at number of followers. So I say start a social media, start a brand early for your kid, show the behind the scenes, show what they're having for snack on the way to the tournament, show your celebration afterward, what's in their bag, how do they train. Like that's what paints the picture of your kiddo athlete. So start on social media, create that brand now. It's only going to benefit them if they want to play like college sports or beyond. And then think of your social media. What can I offer from a sports mom perspective to a business? It's different than what my 11-year-old can offer. And so I post on my social media from the mom's perspective. Oh, I love this gluten-free pizza that's loaded with veggies, and it's a sneaky way to get his veggies in. And he's posting, this is the best cheese pizza I've ever had. So it's two different perspectives, same content, but really utilizing our networks of our people that we can kind of spread the word about that business to different audiences.
Yeah, and I can imagine that this new form of kind of guerrilla marketing is gonna set apart some of the local businesses, right? I feel like this is a different opportunity that they have and possess as an opportunity. And I think the way you're positioning this is fantastic. Like I'm ready to sign up and do this for my team as well. So I love hearing what you're providing us here. So for the parent or coach listening who says, our team could really use help, but I don't really know where to start. Do you have a set of starter tips? Maybe it's here's your first step, here's your first 3 step, whatever that looks like. But like, what's your recommendation to somebody looking to start this type of adventure with marketing?
Yeah, so in the Sponsor My Athlete course, I do give you every template you need, a list of all the businesses in your town that you should reach out to first, a 20-day plan of one little tip you can do each day to start your asks. But when it comes down to who to ask, look for those community focused businesses. And so I will give you lots of ways to find those folks. One is to drive by your high school and see whose banner is on the fence at that high school, because those folks are already invested in youth sports within your community. Another thing you can do if you're part of a team is ask all the parents to submit 10 businesses that their family loves, their favorite
Mhm.
restaurant, their favorite movie theater, their favorite thing to do on the weekends. And home service businesses like HVAC companies. Who did they use to fix their sink last time it broke? It's all those kind of businesses. If you can find the owner and it's locally owned and operated, those guys are a great first person to ask. So use your team's connection, use your school connection, look for on Facebook groups are a great place where people are always promoting their business. Somebody gets on a Facebook group and says, does anyone have a great recommendation for a local photographer? You bet I am emailing all those people that were recommended on that Facebook group and saying, so and so said you're really good at photography. Would you be interested in taking pictures for our team? And every parent is going to, maybe pay you $50 for high res shots of their child this week, but I'm going to negotiate it so I get mine for free.
Yeah.
So, it's like bringing value to other businesses, but also providing them with a value add also.
No, that's great. And we've touched on this kind of briefly, but maybe you could spend some time and talk about the product that you've created, where folks can find it, how they can find you, and maybe you could just talk a little bit about that at this point too.
Sure. So my little guy plays pickleball pretty seriously, and we travel 3 or 4 times a month. to different states. And so obviously you can imagine that got really expensive.
Yeah.
And so once I finally got him sponsorships paid for hotels, flights, meals, all the things, the other parents were like, hey, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
What's the secret?
Right.
And so I started teaching them in person, in real life. I would teach classes locally to sports teams, booster clubs, individuals. And this last year, I thought, oh my gosh, I need to be reaching people beyond Arizona where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created a 60-minute course, and it's called Sponsor My Athlete. And it teaches you exactly what I spent the past 2.5 years figuring out: what emails to send, who to send them to, what to ask in the meetings, what's a reasonable ask. And I will be candid, one gentleman who I had test the course when I was writing it, he was able to get $4,500 of cash sponsorships within the first month of doing this for his kiddo. And now his kiddo has to file taxes, and do all the things, but it's a great opportunity to kind of like treat it like your child's first job. They're going to hear no. They're going to go to the meetings with you. They're going to have an input in, oh, I love this restaurant, we should reach out to them. And it's cool to see because they're part of the sponsorship journey. They're controlling who we're asking, what we're asking for. It's very driven by the kiddos, which is like just a side benefit that I didn't even think of until we started doing the course and hearing the success stories from other families.
For sure. Yeah. Teaching a little bit of business acumen can't be a bad thing for kids, right? So it's fantastic. I think all around there's a lot of wins associated with this. And then what's your, how should folks reach out to you? Your social media handle or what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, so my social media is Carpool to Contracts, because that's what we're doing here. We're driving carpool to get the contracts. But the website for the course is sponsormyathlete.com. And it's, like I said, a 60-minute quick course. They can download it there. You can watch it with your sports friends. I've had moms, go in on it together, and they all gather and watch it together. And it will give you all the emails, all the DMs to send. It's really, really cut and paste. So you just fill it out, change it up for your athlete, your sport, and then it's really just easy. It does its job.
That's fantastic. Before I let you go, I know, my whole thing is let's keep it to 5 questions, but I do like to slip in a bonus question. So, and I thought this would be a good one for you. What's one mistake that you see parents of players or teams that are making when they're trying to raise money or they're trying to get sponsorships that can actually hurt their chances of getting support? So something they should probably stop doing.
Yeah, I would say teams usually, or individuals, make it more about them and not what the business gains from partnering with them. So that's when it all comes back to branding. You're not sending the email saying, can I have $2,000? You're saying, here's what we can offer you: this exposure, this collaboration. We can come in and tape content for your social media channel. Whatever you're offering, it's the good old fashioned what's in it for you approach. And that's what people forget.
That's fantastic. Really good advice.
Right. And follow up. Always follow up. I had a business owner the other day tell me that she gets probably 50 solicitations a day, but it's the ones that follow up and show how persistent they are and that they really want to work with that company that she, will typically donate to. It was an IV bar. And so she gets people all the time, but she's like, the ones that really, really follow up and keep bugging me and leaving me messages at my front desk. And she's like, those are the people I call back, because it's not just a mass email to everyone. They really do want to work with you. So it's all in the follow-up. Don't think you're being annoying. You're probably just getting lost in the shuffle. So you want to make yourself stand out.
For sure. And I think that translates well to youth sports too, right? You show some dedication and some effort, and usually things can pay off for you. So that's really good advice. Well, Mandy, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know that the folks that are listening and watching the podcast here are going to walk away with some valuable insights. I would encourage everybody to reach out to you. Thank you for your time so much.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
All right. If this episode helped you, share it with another coach or parent who's figuring things out too. You can find Uncoached in this episode wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch the episode on YouTube, and make sure to follow the Coaching Dad on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. We'll see you next time on Uncoached.